tratando de hacer la paz. Life spinning out of control. Feels like I'm stuck in slow mo. De repente no me vuela la mente. Lazo que trascenderá mi camino iluminar. Tell me with things on my turn out alright. Que te voy a dar algo que te va a elevar. Suelta rápido ya. Siente la corriente en el presente. Y al instante pierde el volante. Poco a poco yo puedo recordar. Twist and turning, fire burning low. I've been longing, full of an affection. I'm so over, life in the funk getting today. See you later, maybe. I just need to relax and take a breath. I'm gonna show you how I use alcohol markers to create this Converse shoe that I think is really beginner friendly because it doesn't require any blending at all, but the outcome is, in my opinion, really cool and dimensional. So you saw my initial sketch process, and I use fine liners to create the outline, and then I move on to the markers. So I begin with my lightest grey, and I'm going in and laying down where I see all the shadows, and I guide myself with the shape that the shadows are making on the photo that I'm using. And I'm actually using a photo that I took of my own shoe. I'll put it on screen so you can use that too if you like. I love using the brush end of the Ohuhu alcohol markers because I feel like I'm painting, and if you watch my other videos you will know that I love painting. So since I discovered I could use markers in this more painterly way, I guess you could say, I've really enjoyed using them. So once I've laid the initial shadow shapes down in the lightest grey, I'll go in with a second layer of the same grey, and I start to put that where I see the shadows go deeper. And the great thing about alcohol markers is that you can layer the same colour and it will deepen the value of that colour. So I'm still using the lightest shade here. Then I go in with the second lightest grey and I start deepening those shadows even more, and I guide myself by the shapes that the shadows are making instead of looking at the shoe as a whole, because this helps me break down how to approach putting all these shadows together and making them look like the fabric. I find doing these marker illustrations a lot of fun, but I'd love to do a more kind of composed piece with markers. So something that is not just like single illustrations of things or objects. I know I've done landscapes before, but I'm just wondering, like a cool illustration with all the different objects that I do. I'd love to think up something like that. I'm interested to know, if you use markers, what do you like drawing with them? Like, what's your favorite thing to draw with them? And what kind of stuff would you love to learn with markers? Here I started to use the third shade of grey,
to darken some of those shadows, but I did then leave this section to go on to another section, but I do come back to it. Here I'm using the black marker, the fine tip end, to do the line around the shoe. And here I'm using the Ohuhu fine liner pens again to start adding some of the details of the shoe. This fine liner comes from a set with lots of different thicknesses. I really like the thinnest tip for my illustrations. I don't know why, I think the thin kind of lines look really cool with this style of illustration, but there's lots of different thicknesses that you can play around with. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but these are from Ohuhu and they are kindly sponsoring this video as well, so thank you so much, Ohuhu. And here I start to see that I really need to deepen some of those shadows. So I use the third shade of grey again to put down some more dark shadows and layer on top of the other greys to really deepen the darker areas of the shoe. And this layering approach really allows me to build the depth gradually, and I can assess where I need to keep adding depth and shadow. And hopefully you can see that I'm not doing any blending at all. I really don't love doing intense blending with markers. It's just a personal stylistic thing. I think there are some amazing artists that blend markers so beautifully, but I prefer putting them down and letting the colors kind of work together side by side. And then I'm just going back and forth, adding details with the fine liner pen, darkening areas that need to be darkened. And I'm realizing while rewatching this footage that I actually don't use the fourth grey that I swatched at all. So I only ended up using the first 3 shades of grey and the black. And I also layered the same colour a few times to darken the colour, and this is a great technique to use to get a variation of value and hues, especially if you don't have a wide set of colours to choose from. And essentially this summarizes my process. I go from the lightest color markers to the darkest, and I just layer them, and I use light strokes mainly with the brush tip of the pen unless the area gets too small, so then I switch and I use the fine tip for the smaller areas. And then at the end of my illustrations I'll go in with either a white gel pen to add highlights. I didn't do that today here because I thought I was going to need it, but I ended up not needing it. Sometimes I use the white gel pen as a kind of corrector, like Tipp-Ex kind of thing. If I need to clean up some lines, it works really great for that. And because I was able to preserve the white of the page pretty well, especially in those tiny areas like the holes where you put the laces in, I wasn't really needing the white gel pen. If you're interested in more marker tutorials, I made a series of mini tutorials you can find on my Instagram and TikTok, and I was aiming to do one of these every day of October, but then life happened and I wasn't able to finish it. But there are some cool ones on there you can try out for yourself. And I'm doing a lot of marker art right now, and Ohuhu is kindly sponsoring these videos, which is so amazing. But I am also doing some painting videos that will be coming out soon, and I'm really excited to share them with you. So I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.